Hey guys, welcome to today's video. So today we're going to be talking about boundaries and how they are a feminine woman's best friend. Okay, so if you are a woman who is starting her feminine energy journey or has started it and has been enjoying it for a while, one of the things that you would notice, excuse me, one of the things that you would notice is that you're going to be very, very magnetic. And so what this means is that when you go out to events or when you go out of your home or even inside your home, your energy is going to attract people to you, and people are going to want to be in your energy because it's so yummy, it's so juicy. So I don't blame them. Okay, however, as a woman and as a feminine woman, importantly, you cannot afford to be out there without boundaries. You need your boundaries to be able to decide who gets to access your energy and how long. And you also need your boundaries to be able to define what you are available for and what you are not available for. Because if you don't have boundaries, girl, no. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Because what that's going to mean is that people are going to feel like they can just do whatever they like to you because what? You're attractive, right? Your energy is attractive. So they're going to feel like, oh, I can just do whatever I want because I'm attracted to this person. And for a woman, that's very dangerous. That's extremely dangerous, and you cannot afford to put yourself in positions where you are operating like what's the word I'm looking for? There's a word, but you're just operating like somebody that doesn't know who she is. No, that's not what we do here. So what you're going to do is you're going to learn the process of how to start adding boundaries into your life. Okay, so number one, you need to be crystal clear, as in clear, about what you're available for and what you're not available for. So this needs to come from within. You need to decide for yourself. I cannot decide for you because I don't know your values. I don't know what you like. I don't know what you don't like. But the way this pans out for me and the way that I do this is I take a step back and I look at my values. What are my values? What are the things that are dear to me? What are the things that are not? What are the things that I like? What are the things that I don't like? I'll give you an example. One of the boundaries that I have is anything that gets to put me in physical, emotional, psychological safety, like jeopardizes my safety, you have to go. Okay, either you go or I go. So this could come as simple as me not getting into situations where my physical, emotional, psychological safety could be jeopardized, right? As much as I know, of course. So if a situation comes forward where it's like, Amy, you have to be in a place, you have to be in this specific place. If I don't feel safe about it, I'm not going. I am not going, right? I don't need to go tell somebody else and say, oh, I don't feel safe about it. This is my boundary. None of that. My buddy, she already knows. She's like, girl, if we're not feeling safe, we're not going anywhere, right? It's already there. I've already decided. So I don't need anybody to try to convince me otherwise. I already know. So this is something that only you can decide for yourself and be clear about it. Once you have decided the things that you consider important to you, the things that you consider are your values, the next step is that you want to own it. What do I mean by own it? So one of the things that I see a lot amongst my fellow women is that oftentimes when we hear about boundaries, we eventually get to have them when we've been burned. Okay, so we have gone through something where we did not have boundaries and we're like, never again, and then we start having boundaries. And the thing about that, it's always good to learn from life lessons. I think they're one of the most important things in life. But the thing is that when you go through situations after the other, time after time, even though yes, you get to learn from it, you can start to get a scar from it, right? So it can cause damages within you that if you did have boundaries, you wouldn't have necessarily had to go through that situation. I've been through those situations. I'm not perfect, right? But one thing that I want to say is that when it comes to the time when you're clear that you need to have boundaries, you need to make sure that your body, your mind, your soul knows about this boundary. So for example, let's say you go out with your friends, or you go out with a couple of friends, right? And they're drinking heavily and things like that. You guys didn't drive, so you're gonna take an Uber, right? Now, as a woman, that's a very risky situation where you're entering taxis and public cars drunk, right? Anybody could take advantage of you because you're not in your right mind. So a boundary could be as simple as I am not available to put myself in a situation where I lose consciousness and awareness of my own mind. And if I am put in that kind of situation, I am deciding that I'm not going to partake in it. So in that situation that I just gave you guys, your friends could be drinking. It's great. They could do whatever they want. That's their buddy. But you know that, okay, if I get into this public car without having my level of awareness, that's not a good thing, right? So I'm not going to drink that much. I'm not going to drink until I get drunk. You can have a glass of wine, that's fine, but you're not going to drink so much that you lose yourself and then you put yourself in that position, right? So that is an example of owning a boundary. You're not going to tell your friends, ooh, my boundary is not to drink and drink. No. They don't, it's not their problem. It's not their business. It is your business. So you have to own it. You have to wear it. Like, your body needs to be aware to the point that when you're in that kind of situation, it picks it up and it's like, girl, get up. Like, I cannot tell you guys how many times, like, you have the boundary, then you forget. Like, it's not like it's always in your head, like, oh, I have a boundary, right? Especially when you've embodied your boundaries. But what I've noticed tends to happen is I might be engaged in something and all of a sudden my body's like, I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm like, why am I feeling uncomfortable? And I look around and I'm like, okay, something's weird here. And then my body's like, girl, get up. Right? And so I'm like, oh, okay, I have to leave. And I get up and I go, right? Because my body's so aware and I've programmed her that if we do get to this kind of situation, get up and leave, right? And so time after time after time, some people might say it's your intuition. That's true too. But time after time after time, what I've noticed is the more I understand my boundaries, the easier it is to own it. And when I own it, they're mine. And I can do what I want with it. And nobody can come and convince me and say, oh, AB, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. It doesn't matter, because I made the decision to own it and I can choose to enforce it whenever I feel like enforcing it. Okay, so the next step is that you now want to make sure that after you've owned it, you are enforcing it. See, it's not enough to know the things that you like, the things that you don't like. It's not enough to say, oh, I'm no longer available for this. So in this step, you are going to take the action to enforce your boundaries. When you start this process, because you're new to it, because you're enjoying your feminine energy and it's so yummy, juicy, delicious, it's going to require you to be intentional about this. So when you have owned it and when you are in a position where you need to enforce your boundaries, you go ahead and do so. For me, I prefer not to talk to people. I just mentioned the reason why. I don't tell people, oh, I'm going to enforce my boundaries. Like, that's not how it works. Even when I was starting in this process, like I wouldn't sit down, talk to someone like, hey, so I'm just gonna enforce my boundary now. Okay, are you good? Sure. Like, no. Usually when something happens and I have to enforce my boundaries, it goes into action. Like, my body knows what to do. But even before my body knew what to do, is I learned that not everybody is going to be able to receive that in a way that they will feel comfortable in. So even if you tell them that, oh, you have to enforce your boundary, they're not going to receive it in the way that you think they would. They may try to convince you otherwise. They may not take you seriously because of the reason that I gave. So in this step, you take the action. So let me give you an example. The previous example where I said, you going out with your friends and they drinking and getting drunk and you decided not to, that's the action. You saying, hey, I'm not going to drink to the point that I get drunk and then put myself in a vulnerable position is the action. Another way this could play out is that, let's say you have a friend who is always coming to you at last minute, making last minute requests, and then you find yourself having to cancel your plans in order to be able to accommodate their request. First of all, if you're doing this, girl, let's just say, stop it, okay? Stop it. But let's leave that table. Let's talk about this. So if you are always doing that, canceling your plans for them, when it comes to this step, this is what you're going to do. If they call you, do not pick up the phone. Don't pick up the phone. And then call them back when you are in a state where you are not triggered by their call. Because you're so used to this, when you see their call, it's going to trigger you like, oh my gosh, now she wants to ask another thing, right? At that point, do not pick up that call, okay? Wait for the call to ring out. She might text you or something like that. Don't respond to the text. And then later you can say, oh, I was busy, right? Or you can give her an excuse or whatnot, right? Another way this could play out is if she calls you, you pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm not available. I have plans, right? Plans to do whatever you want to do. But the point here is that as the person is doing what they're doing, you are taking the time, the intention, and the courage to enforce your boundaries. Now, the first time you do this, you're going to be biting your teeth. You're like, oh, they're going to hate me. You're going to feel like they're going to hate you. People are going to call you mean. You're going to be this rude chick that people just think that she's so cold and mean. You're going to feel all of that. And if you used to be a nice girl, most likely you were, because typically why women do this is because they want to be liked, okay? They want to be viewed as a nice girl. Let's put that there. So if you are in that state, your body's gonna panic. You're gonna be sweating. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh. They're gonna tell all your other friends that you're rude, you're mean, you're cold, you're selfish, whatnot. At that point, I encourage you to hold it. Like, pause. Allow those feelings come up, those fears, allow it come up, right? Your mind may also be screaming at you like, what are you doing? Right? So when it's doing that, just pause and observe it, and then it's going to pass. And what happens after that is that you're going to get stronger. That muscle is going to get stronger, and in the next situation where this happens, you would be able to have that courage to enforce your boundaries. Another thing that I would say, especially as a woman, I give a hint. If you are a very, very professional, people-pleasing chick, you're going to have to stop that behavior, because when you have boundaries, you're going to stop that behavior. So, you know what? I would say focus on having the boundaries, but also work on the things that cause you to want to be liked and want to people please. Work on that. But when you start getting stronger in enforcing your boundaries, you're going to stop people pleasing, because the things that you would have needed to go out of your way to do for others, your boundaries are going to come in and they're going to say, stop it, girl. We're not available. Stop it. Okay, so that's the beautiful relationship between having boundaries and being able to enjoy your energy as a feminine woman. Because, girl, when I tell you, when you're able to live life from a place of your overflow, life will be good. Life will be good. Okay, so I hope you ladies enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Other than that, I will see you in my next video. Bye.